Okay, guys, it's 3 in the morning, and I'm up because PTSD sucks, but that's not important. The important thing is I'm back, and I have a video that is a viewer request and one that I thought was pretty cool to do anyway. So, what an awkward intro I just did, huh? Yeah. But let's talk about my top favorite EDC blades for this year. This is the 2021 edition. When we talk about EDC knives, EDC anything, you know, and I've talked about this before, there's a couple different ways to interpret the term EDC. You know, your personal EDC or EDC stuff. It can literally be what it is that you actually carry around every single day in your pocket, or it can be stuff that is intended for common everyday daily use. I'm not here to debate that one because we already had that video. But when I say my top EDC knives, my top 10, and then we have some honorable mentions we'll talk about later, I went through the whole collection and I said, what are the knives that end up in my pocket, the ones that I find myself reaching for just to carry around, not for specific purposes, not I say I'm going off to do XYZ and grab a specific blade, but just ones that I feel comfortable carrying around, you know, just to go out of the house, just to have in my pocket, ones that I know will serve me well in a variety of different circumstances, just for general use, you know, day to day. And so these are the ones that I find myself reaching for, that just, you know, I'm running out of the house and I want to have a blade in my pocket for whatever comes up. So these are the ones. And that's what I'm thinking about when I think of an EDC blade. As opposed to, just to give you an idea, so, you know, in the honorable mention category, for example, the Benchmade 810. I love this knife. Is it really an EDC blade? I mean, if you did carry it every single day without, you know, sure, it could be your EDC, but this is not a knife that I would really say is an EDC. It's a very large knife, but there are other large knives here. But I mean, like, this is definitely, like I said many times, I've carried an 810 on 3 different deployments. It's a great knife in the field, hard use knife. It's not my first choice for a simple pocket carry EDC, as much as I do love the knife. You know what I mean, though? So it does get an honorable mention that we'll talk about later on among favorite knives, but it's not one of my top 10. It would be like an EDC choice. So we're going to go through these 10 knives. And as always, I welcome your comments, your feelings on it. You know, you guys can chime in the comments on what you think of my choices or what you would have on this list or whatever. And we're going to go through, like, this is not a countdown or anything like this, in no specific order. We're just going to look at them. So, all right, let's get going. So I'm going to grab this little guy right here. And I have talked about this knife frequently, and this is an interesting one to have on this list because you probably are not going to find this one around very much. This is the Kershaw Compound, and this is an older Kershaw model. You might still find it around. When I first got this knife, it's a $9 knife, $9.99, and I got 3 of them for $18 on woot.com. I don't know if woot.com is still a thing, but what a great website that was. Actually, it is still a thing, but it has drastically changed from what it once was. But it is simple. It is, I mean, it's not fancy at all, but to tell you the story again, the very first video ever up on this channel was working on a Kershaw Compound. This whole channel started with working on a Kershaw Compound, wanting to try my hand at doing customization and saying, like, hey, somebody look at my video and tell me what you think if I'm doing this wrong, or like give me advice. That's where it all started. And so the Kershaw Compound has a very special place in my heart. It is a cheap knife. It is not a fancy knife. Cheap meaning inexpensive, but for what you're paying, you're getting a lot of knife. It is comfortable. It is unique. It's got a great blade style, and I still to this day love the Kershaw Compound. For a $9 knife, you're getting tip up, tip down, you know, choosability. You're getting the spring safe, yeah, 3 in the morning videos, way to go. You're getting the speed safe spring assist system, which is just, it's awesome. You hear that sound? I mean, you're getting a solid feeling knife, a comfortable knife. Yeah, it's plastic scales and everything, but it's a good, dependable knife. And I've had this particular one, since 2012, I guess. I don't do maintenance on it. You know, I don't like scrub the blade, but it's 8 CR13 or 9 CR13. There's not a speck of rust on it. I mean, good, dependable blade. And it's just, yeah, it's semi-serrated. This was back in my serrations are cool phase. But I love it. I love this knife. It's a good knife. It's a good knife. So this is still, after all this time, this is still a knife I reach for because it's just lightweight and dependable, you know? And it just gets the job done. So that is on my list of, even to this day, in the 2021 edition of my favorite, you know, my top 10 EDC blades, things I would reach for to carry around. This is still making the list. And if you can find one of these, if you can find a Kershaw Compound, I highly recommend you buy it. Even for 2 or 3 times what I bought it for originally, I would still grab one of these if I could find it. And if you're looking to do customization, you know, get into the whole knife customization thing, whatever, great platform to work on. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a little card right here. If you haven't seen my first video, if you want to check out how my videos have grown since then, check out this initial, you know, video of what it was like. And because I was deployed at the time too when I did it. Anyway, so there you go. Second, I'm going to go straight to this guy because, of course, you guys have seen this over and over. The classic Japanese Higanakami. And this is the one. I have many in my collection. And I have the whole history and collection, you know, video showing all the Higanakamis I have. And I am finishing up a project for all my Patreon folks where they're all getting a personalized Higanakami from me for the winter gift. I love this knife. It is simple. It is effective. It is a traditional Japanese design. Doesn't go back centuries and centuries. It just goes back to the 1800s, actually. But it is just a great, I mean, it is a great EDC tool. And this finds its way in my pocket probably more than anything else does. It's not a fancy design, it's not technical, but it is effective. And you know, the whole thing about Higos is that they are designed to be unfinished so that it grows with you. The whole idea is that you get it from the maker. And so, you know what, I'm not trying to like plug other videos, but again, there's so much that goes into the whole history of Higanakamis. Up here somewhere in the magicalness of the video when it's done, you can see that whole history of the Higanakami if you're interested video. They give you basically a workable knife, but like they're designed, they're made, they're intended for you to put your personal touches on, whether it's polishing, whether it's doing something with the blade, whatever it is, so that it becomes yours. And over time, whether you get a stainless steel one or a brass one, or you know, it's blued, whatever, you know, as you use it, it ages, it patinas, whatever, with you, and becomes uniquely yours. And this one certainly is picking up scratches and you know, it's a little bit of aging around, and it's just becoming, I mean, I love it to death. And it's such a, I mean, and the steel is very unique, the steels that they use on the real ones. I've been asked over and over, where do I find a real one? How do I know a real one? Because there are some fakes out there. And real ones, you can find them at such a wide range of prices. There are some that are very meticulously made that are $100 or more, but the regular old Higanakamis are not that expensive. So I'm going to drop a link in the video description. I'm going to go on to Amazon. They're available in a whole lot of places. I'm gonna look for one as of the time I'm making the video, okay? And I'm gonna look for one that I know is from the real guild, the Mickey Guild, and I'm gonna put a link to one, so that if anybody's interested, they can grab one. Because I know I've been asked over and over, like, how do I know a real one? I mean, you can look in the video, but I'll go ahead and drop a link as of today, you know, of a real one. But they change. The suppliers get new ones, or they they run out or whatever. But I love the Higanakami. It's just such a simple knife, and it ages over time with you, which is why it's such a cool EDC knife. And I love the blade shape, and you can do a lot to personalize it too, you know. So this is definitely in my top 10 EDC. We might as well just finish up on this side over here. This is the Perpetua. It's designed by TJ Schwartz, who's very up and coming. He's established, but I mean, he's becoming bigger and bigger. He's got his own designs, but his designs are being put out by some of the major companies. This was before Mass Drop became Drop and then turned into Suck. And now all they do is like keyboards and headphones and stuff. They collaborated with TJ Schwartz to do the design and Millet to do the actual production. All made in the USA. It's, you know, and some people have said it's just like a, you know, Griptilian, whatever, but it's actually made fantastic. And on Drop, last time I checked, these things, because they're trying to divest themselves from anything that's not keyboards and headphones, really. So if you go on to Drop, these things were running $90, which is a discount from what they were. And it is, you know, it's we can't call it the Axis Lock because Axis Lock is patented, is copyrighted, but the patent for the Axis Lock itself is up. Anybody can use it. So whatever you call it, you know, you just can't call it Axis Lock, but this mechanism can be used. And this is a great knife. I love this. I replaced the thumb stud with something a little bit taller. This is not the original thumb stud, but uses Nitro V steel, which is kind of unique. It is a great size and shape for EDC. The clip steel is a little bit, yeah, they've improved the steel, the clip steel over time, the newer ones that you can get. But these things, I love this knife, and my buddy Dave, he just kind of messed around with one and then had to go straight to Drop and buy one. Really awesome sheep's foot blade shape. Love it to death. I just put this one together after oiling it a little bit tight. Got to break it in again. It's a knife. It is Griptilian-esque. It is, but it is you know, the whole design is just different. You know, it doesn't have the inset steel liners. It has full steel liners across the whole thing, and they are milled out, you know, for lightning. They're skeletonized. But the Nitro V steel is a nice steel, holds an edge pretty well, and it's a pretty cool design. I really like it, and I carry this often too, so this is a good one. I like that. These are these find their way into my pocket a lot. Moving down the line, so like you're gonna see, by the way, as we go through this, knives of all price ranges. The Ganzo 756, and I just grabbed this because I have a few different ones. This is not one that I actually carry often, this particular one, but it's a nice looking one. So the thing is, yes, it is basically, there's a difference between a copy and a clone. I will never support clones. You know, so Ganzo has made some, and I have I have a video about this too that you can check out if you want to see, about their copies of different designs, you know, and so we've debated about this. Now, if it was a clone where they actually tried to duplicate, try to fool you into thinking you were buying a Benchmade, I absolutely would not support that. That would not be it. But what Ganzo has done is taken the spirit, the essence of different makers, and in no way tried to put their logo on it, tried to pass off their knives as someone else's. They basically take the shape a little bit and then produce something else at a much cheaper price. So yes, this does look kind of like a Benchmade 940, and I have Benchmade 940s and I've shown them to you. I actually prefer the Ganzo 756. It is an inferior, no quotes. It's an inferior steel, but it is a little bit larger. It is, if the 940 was the size of the 756, it would be a perfect knife to me. I love the reverse tanto, blade shape. I love the Axis Lock. If the Benchmade 940 was exactly the dimensions of the Ganzo 756, I'd carry a 940 every day of the week. It is just making it just that much bigger makes it just great. And I love the reverse tanto is one of my favorite blade shapes, and I've said it many, many times. Differences are obviously the materials in the blade are not nearly as good as in the 940 on any model. You don't have the very cool, you don't have the nice milled aluminum scales. You don't have even the ones that are G10 or carbon fiber are not milled out the way they are. You don't have the sweet mini steel inset liners. It's very traditional where they slab the scale on top of full-on steel liners. But these steel liners are skeletonized out again. But it just honestly feels better in my hand. It really does. And the thing is, Ganzo knives are inexpensive. They are cheap in terms of materials compared to what higher-end knives are. But I have never had a Ganzo knife fail me, ever. I have given them away in giveaways because I will never put a piece of crap in someone's hand, except for those knife box knives, but that's a whole different story. People really wanted them, so okay. But Ganzo knives are good enough to get you through. They're well made. They're well engineered. They're just not high end. And so there are days where I will carry a Ganzo 756 because I love the blade shape, I love the feel of it, and they do a decent 440C. Like it holds an edge. It's heat treated well. These have gone up in price since I first picked a few up, but they're still very affordable as knives go. I'm not a fan of the way they do the carbon fiber, which just looks like a laminate. I'm not. But their G10 is pretty nice. Next, we're reaching back a bit. I first got my hands on the... I'm totally blanking. What is this knife? The Manix 2. The Manix 2 in Maximet steel. I first got my hands on one of these because JT from JT's Knife Life did a little pass around on his, and he sent me it to do like kind of a hard use sort of test on it before it went to someone for sharpening. And I loved it so much, the Maximet Steel edition, that I got one for myself. And then if you remember in the shop, this is one of my first experiences with hydrographics. And so I did a little multicam on mine, which is why it's not the standard gray anymore. But so I have become a lover of the Manix 2 shape. It's just it's a very nice blade, full flat ground blade. I've also put some coating on the blade so it looks a little off, but I love their little, I forgot what they call it, but the little ball lock. Kind of like an Axis lock, but not really. But the action on this thing is so crisp and clean. Handles very comfortable. I kind of, I don't like the lightweight with the rivets. I like a knife that you can fully take apart if you want to. But it is light. It is very lightweight. I also don't like the wire clips, but what am I going to do? There's nothing, I don't have any choice on that. But I love the Manix 2 as far as Spyderco goes. It's one of my favorite Spyderco designs. And the Maximet Steel I have been in love with since I first tried it. And, if you remember my Spyderco collection vid, I have 5 or 6 different Manix 2s in different steels and different configurations. This is my favorite one, and this is the one that gets carried around the most. And I've never resharpened this knife since I got it. It is just a workhorse of a knife. Plus, I'm proud of my first hydrographics-ness doing at the shop. So this one definitely. And when we do the 2022 version of this video, this will probably still be on the list. The Cold Steel AD10. Have I stopped talking about this thing since I got it? Probably not. Now, this is a large knife. It is probably the second heaviest knife on this list, only because it is not made of full metal, but that's the only reason it's not the heaviest knife that we're dealing with. But I have said before, and I'll say it again, the AD10 is the most comfortable knife I've ever put in my hands. I kind of expect a larger blade with a handle this big, but despite its weight and despite its size, it is honestly the most comfortable. It is the handle on this. Andrew Demko is a genius at design. The large flat clip on this just melts into your hand. It's just contoured perfectly. I always, whenever we get into the AD10, I'm talking about how comfortable this knife is. And I have been in love with it. I love the AD15 too. I do. It's such a cool design, but it will never be as comfortable in my hand as the AD10 is. The AD15 is awesome, but the AD10 is just, I could hold it all day. I could do any kind of work, any kind of task, and there's no stress, nothing. It is one of the most secure locking knives in the world because of his the tri-way lockup that he's got going on. And it takes up a lot of room in your pocket, but it's such a cool knife in terms of feel, and it's just like a workhorse. It's just a big piece of S35 VN. And it is a workhorse. It really is. It's such a cool knife in terms of, just power, and I love carrying around. And whether it's just opening a box or cutting a cord or whatever, you feel like you could do it forever with this knife in your hand. It's such a good knife. I love it. And yeah, it's expensive, but not as expensive as a lot of other high-end knives, you know what I mean, that don't feel nearly as good in your hand as this thing does. So I'll always have it, like the AD10 will always be one of my favorites. So is that 5 already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did 6. All right, so halfway through the list, let's talk about some honorable mentions of some of the knives that I really like, but just I don't reach for them as much, but I would if not for some other factors. So Kubi, I've always loved Kubi as a lower cost brand, and Kubi is becoming a higher cost brand these days. But I'm proud to say I've been on the Kubi train before it was cool. And this was one of my first Kubis. This is the old Kubi 003. And you guys have seen this on the channel before. They've discontinued this one and replaced it with another Kubi 003, which I don't like as much. This is a 9CR13 blade. And this was very inexpensive when it first came out. It was like a sub $20 knife. But me and this knife have had adventures. It's, great grippy contouring on this handle. The handle is comfortable. It's a tip down only, which doesn't thrill me. But I love the recurve blade. It's a great slicing blade. I've carried this knife through a lot of different stuff. Me and this knife have been places. Holds an edge fairly well, but this is one of my favorite knives. And it's still my favorite Kubi knife. I love this knife by Kubi. It has my last year or so in the military, I've taken it out to the field and done a lot of stuff. It has survived a lot. This is a knife I've actually used. Not just carried in my pocket in case I needed one. This has done a lot with me, and I just don't reach for it very often now, because I am very particular about tip up or tip down, and this is a tip down, and I'm not too big a fan of it. But I love this knife so much so that a viewer once was really struggling with picking a knife, and she was a very loyal viewer to the channel, and I ended up sending her one when they still made them, and I said, "This is a great knife." Because they were cheap too, like inexpensive. And she, to my knowledge, she still carries it today. But it's such a solid knife, and if I didn't have other options, I still probably would carry this, alongside my Hinderers. And by the way, if my Hinderers do not get lost, guarantee you'd see a Hinderer on this list. But I'd have in my pocket, in uniform, probably a Hinderer and this Kubi, honestly. So this is honorable mention number 1. All right, this guy right here is the Tucson TS27 TT. You can see there's got fingerprints and stuff on the blade because this is one I really like. But the truth is, it's just large. It's Large Marge. Large Marge sent me. I really like this blade. I really do. It's just, the truth is, I always think about carrying this one. Tucson makes some great knives. And I am such a sucker for Jade G10. But I like, it's a little awkward for EDC carry. I want to carry it. I want to really bad. I think it's a beautiful knife. I think it's a great design. But I just end up not carrying it. But I always want to, you know what I mean? Like, I always want to. And just what a great blade shape. Comfortable handle and everything. But so it gets in the honorable mention category because I always think about carrying it. I just never do. Next one is one of I don't know, not the oldest, but an oldie in my collection. This is a Strider SMF cracked ice finish. Very limited numbers of these were put out. And this is another one that I used to carry this around until I realized this is like a very limited knife. When I say used to, we're still talking like 2013, 2014. But I love the feel of holding the cracked ice in your hand. This is, I have a bunch of Striders. I had more. I sold a few off because I just had a lot, standard SMFs. I had a couple SNGs. But there's something about a Strider that I don't know. People either love Striders or hate Striders. But this is the one that I honestly would be prone to carry the most. And it feels good. And I just kind of like it because it's so different from most Striders. So I have carried this one around. And then, of course, like I said before, there's my Benchmade 810, which I love. I can't believe they discontinued the 810. Why would they do that? And this still does get carried from time to time. But honestly, a lot of the time when I do, I'm like, it's such a long, awkward kind of in my pocket. Like, I probably shouldn't have carried that one today. And it just doesn't, I love the feeling of the 810. I love using the 810, but I think with so many other good choices I have for EDC, like if I'm going off in the woods or something, I love to have the 810. But if I'm just walking around, just EDC style, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. So, but I still love carrying the 810. So those are the honorable mentions. All right, back to the list. So, I had a whole video on this, just showing how to swap out a standard old Griptilian. So this is a Wilkins Grip, Wilkins knives. American, lives in Germany. They were the finest, he stopped making the grips. The finest aftermarket stuff. Before the market was really flooded with Griptilian aftermarket scales, he was the guy making them. So this is a Griptilian on the inside only. Basically, the inset liners. It is a full titanium anodized set of scales, backspacer, clip, his proprietary screws. This screw is Benchmade, the pivot is Benchmade, the axis lock is in there, but so this is his replacement blade out of S30V, and his scales and backspacer and clip. This is, I was just joking with Sunshine. Rachel has her channel, Sunshine Side of Life. This is like the most expensive Griptilian in the world right now. The Doug Ritter Griptilians, the old out of production ones, they're worth a lot of money, but this is probably $1,000. Honestly, because now that it's all out of production, like just the set of scales and the blade alone, it's like a $600 Griptilian, but like now with it all being out of production, it's like $1,000. Like somebody wanted to buy it the other day, a month or two ago. It's like $1,000 Griptilian. Believe it or not, this is crazy. But I still carry it because I love it. It's heavy, but the Wilkins grips, he used to sell out all the time. You couldn't get your hands on them fast enough. And I love the oval hole like the old Griptilians had when they were still made out of 440C. It just feels so solid in your hand, and I love having it. And you know what? I feel a little smug having this one, having a Wilkins grip and a Wilkins blade. But Wilkins made some amazing stuff for customizing Griptilians and delicas and all sorts of stuff, and he's kind of getting out of the aftermarket racket and just he makes some really great original blades and knives, you know what I mean? So but this has been, I love carrying this. I just love carrying this knife. Yeah, it's awesome. So I got another Kubi, this one actually on the list. So this is now they call it the Victory. Kubi is now naming their stuff. This just used to be the KU219. And I guys, like I said, I've been on the Kubi bandwagon for a long time. I'm proud to say before most other people. I love Kubi. Like, they've got great designs. They only now are they starting to be really expensive things, but the 219, the Victory, this is a great piece, and it, you know, is getting more expensive. It didn't used to be that expensive, but look at the carbon fiber work on this handle. Beautiful dark stonewash N690 blade, skeletonized steel liners in there, and it's comfortable. It feels good. Great jimping right where it needs to be. I love to carry this around. Great liner lock, and it's nice and light. So this is something that I like to carry, and you know, it's a really nice piece. It looks good. It feels good, and honestly, this with somebody else's name on it, like, you know, when it first came out, I mean, it would have been 3 times the price. This is really well done carbon fiber, and it doesn't have that cheap laminate look either. It's really nicely machined. You can kind of see the grain in it and feel it. It's a really nice knife. I love this. I've always loved this. Kubi makes great stuff. Kubi makes really great stuff. I love Kubi stuff. And they're, you know, they've really made a transition from lower end to like really high end, really fancy stuff. And they do really well high end stuff too. They've sent me some really nice stuff to unbox, and I've got an email from them recently I gotta go check out. But it's a little wide compared to some other skinnier stuff that you'll see next, but it feels really good in your hand. I love carrying this guy. And here's skinny. This one came in Monthly Knife Club, the ZT0357. Now, we talked about in past videos comparing this to a Kershaw Link and kind of what is the difference. And a lot of people said, why would you spend the money on the ZT when it's basically just a Kershaw Link? And we did a whole video to show you that it's really, there are differences between this and the Kershaw Link. And, you know, some of the differences are small. You might not care. But there are differences between this and the Kershaw Link, things that make it different. Starting with the blade steel, 20 CV steel is excellent steel. I mean, it is really good steel. There are some similarities between this and the Kershaw Link. I mean, it really all depends on what you're looking for. I like this. ZT is, so in case you don't know, let me back up for a second. ZT and Kershaw come from the same stable of knives. It's kind of like if you're familiar with WE knives and Civivi. So WE is the bigger, fancier brand, and Civivi is a same house, less expensive, lower quality materials. Same thing with ZT and Kershaw. So ZT is the bigger, fancier one, you know. So there are similarities between this and the Kershaw Link. But I really enjoy this one. I love the steel. There, you know, it is, like I said, slightly different. And this one is, you know, it's a really nice, it's a great EDC size. It's a really nice blade shape. Great steel for all kinds of work. It is one disadvantage. It comes to a very, I mean, you drop this knife and that point's almost guaranteed to break. And then you got to get it reprofiled. But it is a, you know, but then again, ZT customer service is outstanding. It is outstanding. It really is. So the ZT0357 is a great lightweight EDC knife. with some really high quality steel on board, and you got your speed safe, which is, like I said, my favorite spring assist system out there. So. And then our final guy on the list for my top 10 EDC blades for 2021. These didn't all come out in 2021, obviously, but these are the ones I'm carrying, most this year. We've got one from Offgrid, the Offgrid Scorpion. Offgrid, I've been a big proponent of Offgrid too since the very first time I made the mistake of confusing Offgrid tools with Offgrid knives, and the owner of Offgrid Knives sent me an email and said, listen, I just want to let you know, we are not the same thing as Offgrid tools. Let me send you one of our knives so and because it was a battle box unboxing, and it was the Offgrid tools little rescue hatchet thing, and I confused the two companies, and he said, I'd like to send you, one of our knives, so you can do a review on the knife. We are not the same Offgrid tools as Offgrid knives, and we started a little working relationship together, because he designs everything Offgrid makes. And so his newer high quality, higher end stuff is actually made by we and some of those other, production companies. Great stuff. So the Scorpion is a beautiful knife, high quality steel. S35, S35 VN, full titanium with carbon fiber inlays. It is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And I've said this again too. So again, this exact same knife with like ZT or Benchmade's name on it cost you 2 or 3 times what Offgrid charges you. And guaranteed. And a full titanium frame lock like this, they charge you $300, $400 easy. And it is just engineered great. I love this knife. And this is, it's all on bearings. There's no spring assist on this. It just feels so good to carry and use. And great blade shape. Flat saber ground blade. So again, EDC type chores, slicing and cutting. This thing just cuts through whatever comes out of the box, razor sharp. I remember when I did my unboxing of it. It was just like, I couldn't believe how good this thing was, especially at the price that it comes. And it's, with the materials and everything, it's just awesome. It is an awesome knife. I love it. And, I carry this one often. It's a great feeling to have this one in your pocket. And it's just such a solid knife. Just such a solid piece to have. Like everything Offgrid makes, it's just super solid, but this is probably one of his finest piece, I think, in my opinion. I absolutely love the Scorpion. It's fantastic. It's just great. So these are my, as requested, my top 10 EDC carry choices going on through this, this year. Like, if I'm going to leave the house, there's probably a 90% chance that one of these knives is in my pocket. I might grab something else just if I'm thinking, let me just grab something else and carry it around and give it a feel and see how it goes. But probably one of these knives is in my pocket, walking around in the house, out of the house, in the backyard, doing chores. Like I said, unless I'm grabbing something specifically for a specific purpose, it's one of these. And I love them. So now I would love for you guys to participate in the discussion and tell me, what do you like to carry? What are your, you don't have to list 10 knives, but what is your, this year, and here's the thing too, and I always say this, when people are like, what is your favorite knife? And I'm like, well, you mean right now, this second, as we're speaking? Because it can change, for a favorite knife for a specific purpose, for a day of the week, with a specific outfit. So some people are lucky that they can say, this is my absolute favorite knife of all time. It never changes. I'm not like that. My favorite knife will change often. With my mood, with the cycle of the moon, with the meal I'm eating that day, with, depending on how much Tato loves me that week. But So I'm not asking you, like, you don't have to throw down with a favorite knife, but, like, you know, what do you tend to carry? Is there one that finds more pocket time than another, or a style, or whatever? And you know what? We'll also we'll follow this up with the live stream with channel chat Wednesday, 6:45 p.m. Eastern time. On wow, now I got to do like math. So it'll be May 12th. May 12th. That one. That actual live stream. So. I hope that this was a good answer to that viewer request and that you guys have enjoyed this video and taken a look inside the very disheveled mind of one Doc P 91B. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think of, like, you know, your kind of favorite EDC carries as well. So remember that you guys are all absolutely awesome. I appreciate every single one of you. I love doing these viewer requests and giving you exactly the videos that you guys want to see, because that is the best way to provide the content that you want. It's exactly what a viewer has requested. So keep that in mind, and remember that I will be back again real soon.